grass, saw a nest of wild chicken eggs not far away and walked carefully up the slope with excitement in her eyes. Her clumsy movements were due to her 9 months of pregnancy, and with due time to deliver looming, the household couldn't be without firewood for cooking while she'd be confined for the postpartum month. This had been ordered by her mother-in-law, who she still remembered had gone to help care for the children at the house of another woman in the village early that morning, because that woman had given birth to a son. You who only give birth to money-losing goods, what makes you so precious? Without firewood at home, you must go and cut it twice a day. Mrs. Lee could only obediently go to the mountain to cut grass. Even as she was about to go into labor, while cutting grass, she discovered wild chicken eggs in the thicket. Seeing the eggs, she thought of her 4 feeble and thin children at home. She reached out to pick up the wild eggs and passed by a place where there was a wasp's nest. Buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. Oh! Mrs. Lee reflexively used a straw hat on her head to fan away the wasps. Her actions were slow, not as quick as those tiny insects, and she was stung on her face and hands. Stung, she still carefully placed the wild chicken eggs into a cloth bag and removed the wasp's nest that was buzzing around her. Slowly making her way down the hillside, she felt a burning pain on her face and hands, and the wasps continued to pursue and sting her. Then did Mrs. Lee lie down in the wild grass to rest as the wasps gradually flew away. She felt intense pain and burning on her face, and her hands were swollen and unresponsive. Looking up to the sky, through her swollen eyes she blurrily saw the sun rising halfway up, and she tied up 2 large bundles of grass, shouldering the 70 to 80 pounds of firewood with a carrying pole, walking unevenly down the mountain, 1 step high, 1 step low. She walked a mile back to the village, where she encountered an elderly woman coming out of the vegetable field. This elderly woman, with her dim vision, saw Mrs. Lee, Hongji's wife. You have to be careful with such a big belly. It's really something with Hongji, him being a woodworker having wooden scraps. Why does he still have you, with such a big belly, going up the mountain to cut grass? What if you fall? Every day Mrs. Lee heard the villagers express such sympathetic words and her heart agreed with them. But she was accustomed to being timorous, and also had given birth to several daughters, with her husband's family having only 1 male heir for 2 generations. If she failed to give birth to a male child in her generation, third granny, I'm okay. My goodness. What happened to your face? And your hands too. Third granny approached and saw Mrs. Lee's face swollen like a pig's head and her exposed hands grotesquely swollen. Third granny, I'm fine. I was just stung by a wasp a moment ago.